Hello, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner, sometimes interrupted by Jason Richards. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, you can catch us live every, Thursday night on Facebook, YouTube, and on X. Hello and good evening. And you might even get a random appearance from Joe as well. Also, we'll get to some of the chats. If we can't get to them all, don't worry, but some of your chats may even show up on the show. So check yourself there. As always, if you can't catch us live, catch us in the replay or in your favorite podcasting app. You know me. My name is John Rewark. I'm a past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957, in Fairfax, Virginia. And two gentlemen who can't wait to be introduced are both Jason Richards and Joe Martinez. I'm just not even gonna give you your own space. You're just gonna jump right in.
Go first.
Well, yeah, I guess it's me then. I don't want to say hi, Joe Martinez, shuffling tarot cards here, and that's Jason, and we're not the same person. And I'm the past master of something. Yeah, there it is. Manassas Lodge 182, Manassas, Virginia, member of other things and stuff. As always, damn glad to be here. And I can't shuffle so good, so that's why I'm not paying attention to y'all. So my apologies.
There you go.
That's good.
I'm Jason
Hey,
Richards here, past master of Vacation Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia. Glad to be here.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, let's get right to our normal paying the bills to thank all the patrons who support the show. You guys are awesome.
Woo.
Guys and gals. It's not just guys.
Guys and gals.
So watch that.
And friends and brothers. Not all brothers.
And sisters and cousins and all the things.
Yeah.
The freighters.
It's a good community.
And dudes.
And dudettes.
All the things.
Patreon.com/the Masonic Roundtable. All right.
Yeah.
Now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, more especially Joe Martinez, which is...
I didn't queue it up.
Well, it is. It's still tarot card of the week.
Yes. I'm not singing for you, so.
Tarot card of the week.
Absolutely dreadful. All right, so today we're going to go with oldie but a goodie. We've definitely done it here before. The Botticelli tarot deck. I think I bought this in Italy when I went to Rome. There is an amazing little, for those of you who've been to Rome and have been to the Pantheon, there is a little piazza there that has like 20 gelato stores and 10 stores that every Freemason would love. It's tarot decks, it's divination stuff. It's you just get a ton of gelato and weird tarot decks. And then there's a fountain with an obelisk there, so you can make a day of it. So next time you're in Rome, get some gelato, some cool Italian tarot cards, and call it a day. So yeah, I'm shuffling here, y'all. My apologies, I am not the best shuffler when it comes to the cards. So I'm going to pull the first one, and we've got the damn advertisement card with the website on it. That is not what we're pulling
Wow!
It's the Joker card.
The Joker. All right. What do we got there? That is that the Two of Wands? That's Two of Wands. Two of Wands and a fully dressed lady. Lucky for us. Yes.
All right. Two are always good for decision-making, choices, right? Wands being important, spiritual decisions or long-term planning decisions. So that's always a good card.
It's not my card. It's long-term plan. We kind of shoot from the hip here.
Yes, very, very Pisces of you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. But I like the Two of Wands, especially in the Rider-Waite system. It's the like two staves. They're just planted in the ground, very firm. Like I got a choice to make. I'm going to make it. Darn it. So.
Yeah. One or the other. There is no both.
There's no spoon. Tonight's topic.
You will find that you are the one who bends. But we're all over 40, so that's probably not a great idea.
Yeah, we
very
don't bend
carefully.
as much as we used to. Yeah.
Tonight's topic, we're going to go dive through some of the allegorical and biblical references that come with Freemasonry, to include probably the earliest known Mason / builder /
Specialist.
sharpener specialist. Yeah, let's go all the way back to the very first one, Tubal Cain, who really sets things off, right, for a lot of masonry and that kind of influence that we have. So we will start in the beginning, because Tubal Cain himself is a person mentioned in the book of Genesis. And it's interesting. I'm going to bring up a little follow along at home diagram here, because once you start in Genesis, look at that. It's amazing when that works. We've got a family tree, so it helps when you follow along at home. Early Genesis, we got names and people, but Adam and Eve had some kids. Those kids had kids. Those kids had kids. And as you can see, once you get down here on this left side, we have Lamech and Zillah actually had a child named Tubal Cain. We don't know anything more about the descendants of Tubal Cain beyond that biblical account. So in Genesis, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you picked the extra. I like this one. This one is not traditionally Old Testament-y. You've got a whole bunch of Jesus lines on it. So this one's pointing to a bigger family tree. But yeah, no. And Lamech here, he don't judge him. They could have more than one lady friend back in the day. It was okay. It was not verboten. So he did have more than one lady friend because he had 4 kids.
Polygamy was not banned by then.
Definitely not. No.
Okay.
Yeah. And we don't know if they were married. We don't have marriage records from back then. They could have just been in the club, doing what they do. Yeah.
But if it was just originating from one man and one woman, things were pretty squirrely for the first couple of years.
The family tree kind of goes in a straight line.
Yes. Yes. It was just spontaneous reproduction. They just bloop, cloned each other. And the new one got a new name. Yes.
Genesis 4:22. Zillah also had a son, Tubal Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. Tubal Cain's sister was Naamah.
Yeah.
What did she forge?
She foraged for food.
Oh.
We'll get to that when we get to the old charges, actually.
Yeah. Because, the siblings do. The family trees are wreathed.
That's
That's a good one.
great show we used to have.
Oh, that's funny. Good one. Yeah, I don't feel like we're emotionally invested today in being grown-ups. So with this topic, but yeah, Tubal Cain shows up in Genesis. He's another figure, just like Hiram, the builder, shows up. 2 references. You've got Kings and Chronicles, so it's really the same story. It's just told from 2 different vantage points. And some would argue that one spawned the other story. Kings and Chronicles were written at different periods of time before they were incorporated into what we call the Old Testament. Tubal Cain, only one single reference in all of Judeo-Christian scripture. Now, we're going to talk about in a little bit extra writings where he does feature more prominently.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I'd like to comment on this before we put this away is, yes, he is in the line of Cain, right? So Tubal Cain is a descendant of Cain, and Enoch as well. So that'll come up in our extra readings as well. But I just want to make sure that was highlighted.
That's the wrong Enoch, though. So Enoch, son of Cain, was not the Enoch that we like to reference. It's not the one referenced in the books of Enoch. That's a different Enoch. But yeah, we were just starting out. There was only 4 or 5 people in the world, so they weren't super descriptive on names, So they heard one they liked, they ran with it.
Enoch
So,
7.
Yes. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, right? It's like 5th of his name, 6th of his name, 8th of his name. Yes.
Don't you have like a Joseph H. Martinez III or something?
We have a junior.
Oh, okay.
We have
I
a
was almost
junior.
a 4th.
My dad, you were really, yeah. My
Yeah.
dad was. My dad and I had different middle names, so otherwise I would have been a junior and I would have had a 3rd.
Okay.
But that's kind of a little too hoity-toity for me. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Now, various attempts have been made to identify Tubal Cain as the name of an ancient tribe somewhere, but nothing has really been solidified over the years.
Well, it's interesting because it's Tubal Cain, which is separate from Jubal, which could be
Jabal
kind of
and
a,
Jubal. Mhm.
yeah. They had a lot of names that sounded similar.
Well,
however, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to stick to Genesis and talk about the meaning of the name.
Exactly.
It's kind of a weird meaning, yeah. So the name is Tubal Cain, and if you look at the literal Hebrew, it means the spices of Cain.
Ooh, spicy.
So, yes. So perhaps he was, of my people's persuasion, having a burrito every now and again, some chile rellenos, that kind of thing. But no. But yeah, that's what the name means. So the jury's out on what exactly that means. Is it improving Cain? Because Cain definitely wasn't a protagonist in the Old Testament.
No.
So what did he do better, or what did he make better? John.
Instruments of killing.
Yay!
Tubal Cain was the world's first arms dealer.
What? How did you get that from?
He perfected the instruments of Cain, which were used in the slaying of Cain's brother Abel.
Which I'm glad you mentioned that, because another interpretation of the name of Tubal Cain is could be, because again everyone has their own different opinion. It could be better translated as the sharpener. Right. So not so much the artificer, but the sharpener of iron and metals and stuff like that. So which would make sense.
Finishing work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So which would give credence to the sharpener being one who makes those pointy things very sharp to kill.
And it's interesting because we don't typically associate weapons with the building of Solomon's temple, right? And so it's interesting how when we look at Tubal Cain, in more of a fraternal context, it's more about building things that are good. I guess it is left vague.
Well, I mean, to that point, I mean, we're kind of, and maybe I'm being general, and if I am, I apologize. We're kind of ascribing a lot of Cain negativeness onto Tubal Cain. Like, he did his thing, right? Like, we got to remember.
Gotta blame your ancestors.
Right. And how long does that go for? I mean, granted, there's not many people in the world, and that's in that part of the story, but you got to remember when that story was being told, right? Like, these are Bronze Age humans, So this is all older than 1000 BCE. So
nailed it.
You're effectively in the Bronze Age. Like, metalwork was the big technological shift, right? So, we can take metal and we can make more metal and we can mix metals together and make better metals and start to build civilizations, and kill a lot of people too. You can do both. Multi-use tool, like the Swiss Army knife of civilization. But
dual-use technologies.
Yes. But yeah, so this was kind of a big deal to be an artificer,
Shame on you, 300 IQ wizard. Shame on you.
Dad jokes.
Bad.
A lot of them today. Yeah.
I'm not even going to read it for the people who are listening.
So,
So-
another interpretation of the name is Smith, right? Right, as in a metallurgist, a smith, or the father of smithcraft, which we'll get to. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I was going to go into more of the Jewish narrative around Tubal Cain's life.
Let's do it. I want to hear it.
So, part of this narrative involves actually Tubal Cain through inaction causing the death of his forefather OG Cain, original Cain. So Tubal Cain, it's said Tubal Cain was off hunting with his father Lamech, who had turned blind at that point, and Tubal Cain spotted his forefather Cain in the brush. And when Lamech asked Tubal Cain if it was an animal, Tubal Cain just didn't say anything and caused Lamech, through his inaction, caused Lamech to kill his forefather.
Well, that's not nice.
Attributed to bloodlust.
Give me a reference there. I want to peel that back a little bit.
Let's see. It's Rashi's commentary, a linear translation into English. Yeah, it's Rabbi Abraham ben Isaiah and Rabbi Benjamin Scharfman. The Pentateuch and Rashi's commentary.
Nice. I like it. Well, and the reason why I ask is because most of your commentaries, especially a lot of your Hebrew commentaries and stuff, they talk about, and I know we're stepping away from Tubal Cain and going back to Cain, but Cain was marked after the first murder, marked by God, which prevented his death at the hands of anyone. So, it's kind of a weird punishment. Like, you're basically going to walk all of eternity, never die, and no one can kill you. So that's why I asked, because that's kind of interesting that we have an actual commentary that talks about someone killing him, which he probably deserved because he was not a nice dude. So
yeah, it does say that the Genesis Rabbah disagrees with that account.
Interesting.
So it truly is, kind of alternate reality Cainism, as Suncard said.
It's a multiverse.
Ooh, of madness.
But I think the punchline is kind of the best part here. Once Lamech realizes what he did, killing Cain, he threw his weapon up in horror, and it landed on Tubal Cain's head and killed him. Killed his own son, Tubal Cain.
Man,
that'll teach you.
It's worse than Game of Thrones.
It's pretty much on par with Game of Thrones, actually. Yep. Not a sponsor, by the way.
Between the family tree wreath and everybody killing each other.
In stupid ways, yes. I love it.
A what if series on Tubal Cain.
Yes. I missed that. We need to do some more of those. Yes.
The Cain of Thrones.
I love it.
But they canceled that National Treasure series on Disney Plus, Joe.
Oh no.
I know you were super disappointed.
Literally, my heart muscle right now is aching with sorrow at how bummed I am that there's not going to be another season. Oh no. We do need to find a show to start opining on and commenting on and giving our unbridled opinions on.
We do need another symbolism
come
show.
On, Disney. Come on, Disney. Disappoint me.
Another extra Jewish commentary on Tubal Cain. The Antiquities of the Jews by Flavius Josephus says, let's see, what do we got here?
That's not a
But
commentary.
But Tubal, one of his children by his other wife, exceeded all men in strength and was very expert and famous in martial performances. He procured what tended to the pleasures of the body by that method, and first of all invented the art of making brass. So a little bit of a bonus track on his abilities and strengths. Exceeded all men in strength, not just a little, all. So buff dude.
Yeah, he was definitely on
He
the
was jacked.
creatine. Yep.
Hugh Jackman.
Yep, little creatine going on. But to your point, I think now we're starting to dip into historical work, right? Because Josephus's writings were not biblical commentaries at all. He
Correct.
took everything from a historical perspective. So when he was actually, and this is going back to your family tree or wreath picture, John, he really fleshes out who those other children were, the 4 children of Lamech, right?
He does.
And kind of ascribed, if you go back to that. So Josephus's work, which again was not was not a pamphlet. It was 20 volumes of books talking about the entire history of the Jewish nation. And he gets into really big detail on the early children of Adam. And in Antiquities, he talks about Jabal, Jubal, Tubal Cain, and Nama, and basically how civilization and technology started with the 4 of these children, right? You had Tubal Cain, who is the artificer or the builder.
So they're like kind of like the patron saint in the Jewish context. Patron saint of like brass and metals, or a patron saint of music, right? So
yeah, kind of, I would say. And then, Josephus actually talks about them being the ones that started this. Like Nama was, I believe, was weaving. So, anybody who weave baskets or weave ships and any weaving that was done was attributed to her. Jabal and Jubal, things like stonework and glasswork and music. Yeah. All that stuff was, so all the arts and sciences, according to Josephus and some other works, are attributed to these 4 children of Cain. So, yeah. And we'll talk about them Masonically. 1500 years.
All I have to say is, if Matthew Parker ever hears this episode, I'm so sorry. We're completely butchering all of this.
Why would Matthew be mad?
we're doing it right.
What do we do?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
My Hebrew pronunciation will definitely be wrong. So apologies in advance.
I was mostly thinking about the Hebrew pronunciations.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, that Matthew Parker. I thought you were talking about the other Matthew Parker. I'm like,
not Matt Parker, Matthew
he doesn't
Parker.
know how to pronounce things correctly either, so we're good there. But yeah, I mean, if we're gonna stick with ancient Hebrew stuff, we can kind of dip our toes in the slightly biblical works, right? Or the biblical works that are not part of canon, right? The pseudepigrapha.
Yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, and we have to, for those who've not heard that word before, pseudepigrapha, that is the non-Catholic way of describing works that showed up around the time of other scripture but are not part of it. So if you're a Catholic, you'll hear the word apocrypha. Apocrypha is a very it's a very broad category, but it doesn't delineate whether something is attributed to someone or is just flat out a forgery, right? It's just this big umbrella. But for the works that talk about Tubal Cain outside of biblical canon, you got the pseudepigrapha. And what pseudepigrapha means is it could be a book that was written around that time, and it's usually ascribed to someone, but scholars are just not sure if that actual someone wrote the book. So that's all it means. It doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't mean it's fake, it just means they can't be sure of the first person authorship of that book. So
that's most of the New Testament,
I was
though.
going to say,
I wasn't going to go there, but all right. So if we're talking about the New Testament, so a great example of that is for those of you that read the New Testament, most scholars think that only half of Paul's letters or epistles were probably written by him, okay, or someone very close to him. There are a bunch that sound very much like Paul and are similar to his writings, but scholars don't really think that he wrote all of them, but they have his name on them. So
and the Gospels.
That's pseudepigrapha. Well, those. Oh, we're gonna get into this, aren't we? You just getting my juices going. So
The Gospels are an amalgamation of an earlier work that's been lost.
right,
known
but
as
none of
Q.
the work, none of the actual original Gospels that you have, none of them actually say, "I am Mark and I'm writing this book." They don't say that. Those are titles
That's
that were
right.
later
What?
inscribed. Yes. Yeah. Learning stuff, y'all. So it's not pseudepigrapha because those books themselves don't claim, like the epistle letters of Paul says, "Hi, I'm Paul to this church. You're doing bad stuff and don't be naked." You know, that kind of thing. So that's pseudepigrapha, but the original Gospels, not pseudepigrapha. But anyway,
Thank
we
you
are
for that
really back.
clarification.
Yes.
What if we attributed that Paul to be the same Paul when it was just like Paul from down the street? Hey,
That
I'm
would-
Paul. I'm also
that-
a guy.
kind of pseudepigraphal, but the problem is all of the epistles ascribe themselves to be written by Paul.
No.
Yes.
It's
So
like the John of the Book of Revelation. We are going off the
There's-
deep end.
not the same John as. Anyway, we should probably have a show on.
What about non-commodity texts?
Huh?
Ooh.
It's got everything. It's got pseudepigrapha. It's got original text. It's got stuff that is not in canon but is older than canon. So yeah, we should probably do a show on that too.
Which was the style at the time.
Yes. John was big in fashion, right? Because they tried to boil him alive. He didn't die, so he got a retirement house.
Joe, bring us back on track.
Okay, fine. All right, so pseudepigrapha.
But
Yeah.
where did George and Ringo come in?
With Paul.
So, right, with Paul.
Okay.
And John.
Yeah.
You got to have all four
Yeah.
to get the trifecta. Anyway, pseudepigrapha. Damn it. RJ's going to
That
yell.
was after Pete Best left.
As he should have, yes. Nothing
Tell me
written by
about the pseudepigrapha, Joe.
I'm trying to so hard, but the word is not coming out. So we've got some books of pseudepigrapha that correlate to Old Testament or before CE Hebrew writings that talk about Tubal Cain. The first one is the Book of Jubilees. Okay. The Book of Jubilees is found in other denominations' canon. It is considered apocrypha in the Catholic Bible. And most other denominations consider it pseudepigrapha. And it talks about, so the fourth chapter of Jubilees, the Book of Jubilees, it's an ancient Jewish work that expanded on all of the Genesis stories. And most particularly talked about Tubal Cain's role, to Jason's point, actually crafting weapons and tools to make other things. So this is where it said he was a weaponsmith and he was a dog of war, and he had a black market. He was on gunbroker.com, all those things. Tubal Cain. All right. So, and then there's another one, which some of these books have really awesome titles. I don't know why they're not canon. There's another ancient Hebrew book known as the Cave of Treasures. I would totally read that. That sounds fun, right? It's better than like Maccabees. Like nobody knows who those guys are. But so the Cave of Treasures is actually an early Christian pseudepigraphal work that retells the story of the history of Genesis and puts more details on them. And some scholars think this is where Josephus probably had pulled some references because it shows up a little bit earlier than Antiquities.
Interesting.
And so that descriptions of Lamech's kids and that basically the progenitors of technology, you find that in the Cave of Treasures. So Cave of Treasures and Book of Jubilees, they're both available online. You can read them. You won't get in trouble. But the Cave of Treasures does talk about the importance of Lamech's kids, basically ushering in an era of human technology and innovation and things like that. Innovation, a really bad Masonic word. Back to you, John.
Innovator in
There are no
Metals.
innovations in masonry. Except literally everything that we do.
All the things.
yes.
Had to begin sometime.
Where we
All
going
right.
now?
So are we ready to jump into the Masonic context?
Thought we already hit it.
Or do we have more?
There's more in between.
Let's
There was stuff
keep going.
written. There was stuff written during the medieval period, talking about Tubal Cain. So Yeah, we're actually going to leave Europe a little bit, and we're going to move to Syriac Christianity, which is found in modern day Syria and other parts of that world. A little bit different than the Western Roman flavors of Christianity. They have different books than some of y'all are accustomed to in your scripture. But they had, in the 13th century, there was a Syriac Christian text that was written by a man named Solomon. And it talks about the descendants of Adam and has a whole chapter on Tubal Cain. And it talks about him being a craftsman, how he invented the process for working metal, and he was also the inventor of different tools, and back to Jason's point, inventor of different types of weapons.
It's doubling down on the myth.
Yep. And then finally, last thing I was able to find in that time was 12th century, going back into the Western world. There's a book called the Historia Scholastica, 12th century text. It was a historical text, not a biblical text. And it talked about the history of metalworking, and it references Tubal Cain as the first known worker of metal. Boom.
Nice.
So I think that takes us to the time of the Enlightenment, I think.
It does fast forward us a little bit.
He's great at making pancakes.
And green beans.
So where do we have the first Masonic related appearance to Tubal Cain? And that, for the answer for that, you have to go all the way back to circa 1450.
You're gonna say Cook, aren't you?
In the Cook manuscript. You got it.
Yeah, baby.
It is the second oldest of the Masonic old charges, which recants the legend of the construction of 2 pillars by the 4 children of Lamech. That's Jabal, Jubal, Tubal, and Nama. And so, fearing the destruction of the world by fire or water, the siblings decided to inscribe all the sciences they had founded onto these pillars, one made of marble, which would not burn, and the other from clay brick, which would not sink. That sounds familiar, Joe.
That's the Pillars of Enoch?
Ooh, well, you said we were not going to go back anymore, so
Let's rewind.
Okay, let's rewind. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go historical or pseudepigraphal?
Just because it's fun to say.
Pseudepigraphal? Okay, pseudepigraphal. So the story of the pillars being of brick and stone show up in the first book of Enoch, which is very, very apocryphal if you're of that flavor, right?
Not Cain's son.
Yes.
Different Enoch.
Different Enoch. That's right. This is Enoch who did not also shows up in certain Masonic degrees in very great prominence. It was, I think, 7th from Adam of the line of Seth. Seth, 7th, right? You're looking at the picture, aren't you? Yeah, you are. 7th. And he lived for 365 days, did not die, and was transmitted to heaven without dying. So, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. So that's that Enoch. So the Enoch from the line of Seth, thumbs up on. Enoch, son of Cain, meh, not so interested in. So, but yeah, so the book of Enoch, the jury's out on the dates. They're definitely before CE. There are references to them, in the 1st and 2nd century BCE.
So Tubal Cain would have been that Enoch's 5th cousin once removed.
Would he?
For those keeping, yeah.
See, I never understood that, the removed part.
Fifth cousin. So just go parallel, go down the line. And so Lamech and Enoch would be 5th cousins. And so Tubal Cain would be to Enoch a 5th cousin, but once removed, once lower.
Oh, okay.
But you don't have a once added, so you have to say it only one way.
It's a secondary branch of the wreath.
Yes. It's a splinter off the wreath.
It's like an Advent wreath with little things sticking out of it.
Just boink, boink. Okay, sorry.
Boink, boink. Anyway, yes. So shows up.
John has a dirty mind, everybody.
He does. 2 pillars show up there, but it also, if we're going to go historical, that's most likely where Josephus pulled a very similar story from, of the early children of Adam receiving the gifts of science, and magic, and learning and technology by God, and they inscribed them on pillars of brick and stone to prevent their destruction from fire and flood. At some point in time, they get translated, some way or the other to brass pillars that we then talk about later in masonry.
So the Cook manuscript says, here's a quote: "Ye shall understand that this son Tubal Cain was founder of smith's craft, and of other crafts of metal, that is to say, of iron, of brass, of gold, and of silver, as some doctors say, and his sister Naama was finder of weaver's craft." Cook manuscript 239 through 247.
So we have her to thank for underwater basket weaving.
We have an ancient Hebrew person for that. Yes.
And to continue, they took their counsel together, and by all their wits, they said that there were two manner of stones of such virtue that the one would never burn, and that stone is called marble, and the other stone that will not sink in water, and that stone is named latris. And they devised to write all the sciences that they found in those two stones, so that if God would take vengeance by fire, that the marble should not burn, and if God sent vengeance by water, that the other should not drown. 262 through 277. So we've got this manuscript circa, 1450, I said?
Mm-hmm.
And fast forward a bit, because we actually have a reference to that in James Anderson's constitutions. And importantly, James Anderson actually had access to the Cook manuscript when he made his 1723 constitutions. So he's just pulling this stuff together, as Anderson liked to do, and quotes those final 60 lines in a footnote to his description of the York Assembly.
Well, and then he also talks about it, I think where, for those not familiar with Anderson's constitutions, you've got a couple of pages of, we love the king and that's great and all that stuff. And then he gets into the real history of the Freemasons. Yes.
Adam was a Mason.
Allegorical. That's right. Everybody in Anderson's history is a Mason. So
he changes it again in 1728.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. But here he does mention right on the second page of his history, he talks about Adam being the first Mason, like Jason said. Talks about Cain, who he attributes to discovering the first city. So Anderson definitely has a lot less of the biblical disdain for some of Adam's descendants that a lot of us do. He's a very open-minded dude. But he talks about the line of Cain. So he talks about his first son Enoch, that John keeps pointing back to. And he actually takes a jab at Seth in his line a little bit. In that very same, he says on page 8, he says, he talks about Cain and how he consecrated and dedicated the first city, named his eldest son Enoch, who became prince of one half of mankind. And then his very next sentence is, nor can we suppose that Seth was less instructed, who being the prince of the other half of mankind. So I guess he didn't dig that line of Adam. Maybe Anderson, was on that side of the family wreath. But this is where he starts to talk.
But if we take the flood narrative, the original Enoch's line was eventually wiped out.
That is correct. Yes. All the peoples except for Noah and his 3 sons, his lady, 2 of every animal, 14 of some extra. Goodness. Oh God, what was that other? Oh no, that's a lot.
7.
That's
of
the
extra.
zoomed out version. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
But going back to the original Anderson's constitutions, we get a footnote with Tubal Cain. So he talks about the line of Seth, who had many offspring that learn the secrets of science. He attributes geometry and masonry. We talk about what John referenced before, Jubal being the father of music, Jabal being the father of pasturage and tent making. Tent making is an early form of architecture. And then Tubal Cain, who was a metal worker and improved those sciences. Naama, who was the patron of weaving. So, all these things that these people needed to learn, Anderson places a lot of import on. And then he gets to Noah, who also a Freemason. All these people are Freemasons. Every time you hear a proper noun, Freemason. So, according to Anderson. So,
Now, fun bonus track to this. Although the name Tubal Cain appears regularly in the old charges, it should be noted that the name did not come into ritual until a comparatively late date. Any guesses into when we might see it in a more modern context? It's after 1723, so you got that.
Is it in Masonry Dissected? Or no, it's in it comes into play in Web, right? In the Web ritual?
I don't have the actual reference of when we see it in.
then what the hell did you ask the question for?
I have a date. I asked
What's
the date.
What's the date?
No earlier
Date's
than
meaningless.
1745.
That's
Okay.
way earlier than Webb.
That's way before
Exactly.
Web. Yeah.
Way before Preston.
Yeah.
But not immediately, in 1723. But again, you're thinking the evolution of the Noahite degrees and the early third degree.
Well, I was just going to point to Jason because he talks about the quite a bit about the earliest instance of the Master Mason degree being conferred. What stories are those that are being told? We don't know. But yeah, 1745 is way earlier than
outside of the one about Noah's sons trying to raise him from the dead.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, recently discovered transcripts give evidence to a Portuguese. Let's see, what is this? Oh, sorry. The name may have been used in a lodge of Irishmen at Libsyn as early as 1738. According to some research at the AQC.
Well, those bros know their stuff.
They did their homework.
Yes. I was while you were talking.
Coronati, for anyone who doesn't know the AQC logo or AQC acronym.
If you join our Patreon group, you will tell you all the acronyms, what they mean, and how you can be cool like us. While John was talking and I wasn't listening, I kept reading Anderson's Constitutions. And I did notice this. He's got a whole section on Nimrod.
Interesting.
Who I know we don't look kindly upon in biblical texts. But, if we're talking about the first builder, I mean, that's the first name that sticks out, right? Nimrod is the legendary builder of the Tower of Babel, which is the first ginormous structure we see in the Old Testament, right? It's Nimrod.
So another.
There he is. That's right.
Of Noah, of Ham, Cush, and then Nimrod. Yep. Which is funny because up until the 1900s, the name Nimrod actually meant something completely different than the way we use it today.
Say more.
Because Nimrod in the Bible is a very strong, dashing figure. And it was only until Bugs Bunny came out and started calling him "What a Nimrod" to Elmer Fudd that we associated stupidity to the name Nimrod.
Yes, I like it.
So
and then Green Day named the album Nimrod and it was off to the races.
Okay, album.
Sorry. Dookie was better.
Sun Card is. I wish this was like TikTok. We'd send you like little gifts, little packages of stuff. Yes.
So he liked Nimrod as well.
We'll go back to your really ginormous family tree there because I saw
family
something.
Wreath.
I don't know if we talk about it a lot. So we've got Noah who brought his boys, and in the Bible and the Russell Crowe movie. Well, no, not in the Russell Crowe movie. Bring some lady friends for them to, repopulate and stuff. But this is this is where we start the tree of the ancient peoples of the world, right? So you've got the sons of Shem, who chop out the H, later become known as Semites. So people of the Semitic people come from the line of Shem. You've got all the way on the other side, you've got the sons of Ham, or the Hamites. And that talks about people, if you go back to like the tables of nations and things like that, the Greeks and people in the Mediterranean, people that populated there, were the sons of Ham. And then you've got the sons of Japheth. Where did he go? Is he not
in the middle?
In the middle.
In the middle. Okay. So everybody, he was serious about his kids' names. You got a dude named Magog. And
Rolls off the tongue.
yes.
Javon.
Yeah, another Tubal.
Gomer.
Gomer.
Enoch
Pile.
the 7th.
There's another Enoch there?
No, I was just kidding.
Oh. 7th of his name?
Full Metal Jacket.
Yes.
Yeah, and in the Christian context, you see that the descendants of Shem go down to the lineage of Jesus.
Well, we got to get an Abraham in there. There he is.
There he is.
There he is.
He had many sons.
Many sons had Father Abraham.
So there you go. To Jacob, Israel, Judah. So and then we're going to see, yay, lots of descendants. There we go. Then you're going to see your more traditional tribes.
Tribes. Mm-hmm.
Tribes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my tribe? I get a tribe. Scroll more. I get a half tribe.
We already had Nimrod.
Oh. There he is. Boom.
At Manasseh Lodge.
Yes. Half tribes there. Because they were not playing well with one another. So they got their property split up.
Oh, and they're the Ephraimites.
Yep. Oh, we've offended John. John may have lost internet connection. What were we talking about? There he is.
Oh, no. There we go.
I'm back.
Yes. We're about to talk about you.
Oh, you want
Anyway.
the Ephraimites? Or are we good?
I'm good.
Good.
I know. Yeah, we're good too.
Good, we're at time.
Tubal Cain. Oh, wow. Are we really?
I know. We covered a lot of ground tonight.
So, yeah. Big takeaways. Read other things than what's put in front of you. There's a lot out there. Read it. It's fun.
Don't just read the don't just read the canon, read the fan fiction too.
Invest in the multiverse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Biblical fan fiction is lit.
I get jokes. Jason, favorite aspect of Tubal Cain that we discussed tonight?
So I like hearing about the competing commentaries. I find it really interesting when you look at oral traditions to kind of pick apart where the differences are, but why the differences are there. Because you find in oral traditions and commentaries, the stories are changed to better connect with the audience of the time. And so being able to look at some of the competing commentaries on this figure, Tubal Cain, or really, one or two lines about him in the entire Bible. We know very, very little about. It's interesting to see some of the extrapolations that happen from just those two lines in the Bible.
It's a lot of extrapolation.
I only said that like twice.
I like it. No, I'm saying not your extrapolation of the word extrapolation. Okay. I'm saying extrapolation.
I knew what you were saying, Jason. I thought he was complaining about your use of the word.
No.
It's late. My vocabulary is limited.
Speaking of limited vocabulary, Joe.
Wow. I had the greatest friends ever. But yeah. So my favorite parts, yeah, for those who thought we were joking, no, definitely get out there. And there is so much there are so many stories and allegories and things that intersect with stuff that you have heard since you were a little kid. And it's been out there for thousands and thousands of years. So definitely crack open a web browser and get a look in, right? Because there's so much stuff out there. And a lot of it is really interesting. And some of them have really beautiful allegories and stories and lessons to teach. They just didn't make it into your favorite book at one point or another. But my favorite,
and a lot of it we've just recently discovered
or rediscovered.
Yes.
Yeah. Because our ancient ancestors had access to it and talked about it and shared it and passed it on. But that's a lesson for another episode. But yeah, no, my favorite parts of about Tubal Cain are definitely the synergies that we see with things like historical works like Josephus, who was writing about him, and then also commentaries about Old Testament or Hebrew scripture that all intersect at the same time. So it was obviously something of import that for us as a modern Judeo-Christian person, you hear one reference to, and that's if you were paying attention that day, during the sermon, right? If you weren't on your phone playing Candy Crush. So get out there and read and learn and then come chat with us about it.
Nice. And then don't forget to watch the movie Noah.
Yes.
Where Tubal Cain, not the same guy. that part is not biblically accurate. But we do have
it could have been the same guy. They would have been around at the same time before the flood.
Could have been.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we were talking in the green room. If you haven't seen the movie Noah, good movie. Otherwise. And this guy plays the part of Tubal Cain.
Yep. And they all had British accents back then.
Yeah. White skin.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tubal Cain.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Let's see. As for me, pretty much the same. I enjoy looking at these threads through time and cultures to see similarities, differences, and most importantly, what are we supposed to get out of that? So that's been a lot of fun. It's been really fun to see it in a biblical context, pseudo-pigraphical context, as well as a Masonic context. So again, read all the things, learn more, put a paper together, and present it to your lodge. With that, I want to thank you all very much for watching and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.